So what we're looking at here is a 2019 CRF450L. I picked this bike up just over a year ago, and it had 700 miles on it, about between 700 and 750 miles on it when I got it. And it currently has about, well, let's see, I don't even remember. Okay, all right, so you can see that right there, 544.9 on trip B. That was, I reset that to 0 last time I did an oil change, and I also put the tires that are currently on the bike. So I've got 545 miles on the tires, and on the oil, let's see, total miles, 5,727 miles on this bike. All right, let's see, what could I say about this bike? So the kind of riding I've been doing, well, what I got this bike for, I was coming off of a Yamaha XT250 that I was using as a little commuter bike, dual sport. At the time I had a Honda CRF450RX that I was riding. That was my single track bike, and I had got that thing plated for using to connect trails when I rode places where we needed to connect trail. So I got that thing plated, we got it street legal, but taking a cross country race bike and getting it plated does not make it into a dual sport. And the XT250 was certainly lacking in power when I was riding it on the road. I couldn't keep up with the traffic here in Texas. The back roads, sometimes the back roads get up to like 70 or 80 miles an hour even. Even the 60-mile-an-hour roads around here, which were fine until I had to go uphill or something, and you know, I didn't like that feeling of not really having the power when I would use it as a commuter. And so I wanted something more. I had previously owned a KLX 300, and I considered going with something like that again to replace the XT250, because I knew at least it would have the guts to get out of its own way. Another thing, my XT250 was I think it was I can't remember what year model it was. It was a year model before they had fuel injection, so it was still carbureted. I wanted fuel injection, so the CRF450L, the KLX 300 were in the running. So I put out the DRZ 400 as an option. Also like the DR650 or XR650L. But honestly, I really like the ergonomics of that CRF450RX, and I just happened to go into the same dealer I bought the RX at, and they had this leftover used, only 750 miles, looked brand new, for considerably cheaper than picking up a brand new one. And I sat on it, and I instantly liked the ergonomics. Well, everything but the stock seat. We'll get to that. Same as the stock seat on the CRF450RX, which when used as a dirt bike, riding single track and stuff, is perfectly fine because you're moving around on the thing all the time. Anyway, so I picked this thing up the Saturday before Halloween in 2022. So I think that might have been the 29th or the 30th, something like that. The guy who sold me the bike was dressed like Ronnie Mac. How fitting. Anyway, so I got the bike, still had the stock tires on it. The first week that I had the bike, I replaced the front tire with Shinko MX 216 fat tire cheater, and before I ever even took it on dirt with the stock tire. And I think a couple weeks later I replaced the rear tire with the MX 216, and that was a good combination. At the time I was living in a place where my commute was 50 miles, so I'd drive 50 miles to work, 50 miles home, for about 100 miles in total. I did not do that very often. on this bike. Weather often didn't permit that. So I did it a few times. I didn't want to put too many miles on the bike in commuting also. But this bike has become my bike for riding on. This is my secondary bike for single track. My primary single track bike, I've replaced that 250RX with a beta cross trainer, and this will be my secondary bike for single track riding, technical off-road riding type stuff. The cross trainer is certainly better at that kind of riding than the CRF450L. As you can see, I have the EverRide sticker on my bike. I took this bike to Utah last summer and rode with EverRide for a couple days, and this bike just was perfect for that. I did have to mess around with the that idle adjustment thing to get it to start and run better up there at high altitude, but once I figured that out, the bike ran great up there and it handled just fine on the terrain. Now, before I went up there, I'd replaced that rear tire, that MX 216. I'd replaced it with a Kenda Trackmaster in the rear. I still had that MX 216 fat tire cheater up front. I think I rode about 600 miles total up there in Utah, and I couldn't tell you the ratio of pavement to non-pavement, but the non-paved stuff we were on was rocky and hard pack and stuff, and then some pavement. I did have to make a real fast all pavement ride back from where we were at close to the Capitol Reef area. I had to ride back to St. George because I had to get home for a family emergency, so I had to cut my trip up there short. So I only got to ride with a couple days. It was supposed to be I think 6 days of riding, but I still had a lot of fun with it, and the bike handled it flawlessly. But that rear tire was, well, the front tire was done by the end of that trip, and the rear tire wasn't doing too much better. I happen to have a Tusk D Sport front tire I put on this bike just because I needed something right away, and I had that bike. I'd taken off the XT250, and fine for on the pavement for commuting, and maybe fine for riding dirt roads and stuff like that. But that tire was god awful on the single track and the sandy stuff. Just absolutely hated that tire. I did not feel like I was in control. Felt like no more than a voting member. I might say, okay, this is the way I would like to turn, and the tire and bike would decide, no, we're going to go this way instead. So I did not like that at all. I'd previously had the combination of a Tusk D Sport rear tire and the Shinko MX 216 on the front on another bike, and I liked that combination. And that Trackmaster rear tire was gone within 1,000 miles. So what I did is I replaced the rear tire with the Tusk D Sport. And so what was it, 545 miles about? So this is the wear after 545 miles on the Tusk D Sport on the rear. I put a Kenda Trackmaster up front because I'm cheap. Okay, and it was a cheaper tire than buying another Shinko MX 216. And this is the front Trackmaster after about 545 miles, and it's wearing pretty good. I mean, still has those little pieces of rubber on those knobs up there. The knobs are not worn down hardly at all. It's still a bit textured, and that's with 545 miles. Maybe about half and half dirt to pavement. Both the front and the rear, I replaced them both at the same time I got the oil change, which was that would have been the beginning of November, so about a month and a half ago. All right, so how do I use this bike? Okay, so here's the deal. If I'm going to have a friend come out who's not an experienced rider and who's going to ride with me on the off-road, on the single track, they're not riding this bike for sure. I will let somebody like that ride the cross trainer. It's such an easy bike to ride, and less likely to hurt themselves or the bike, and probably gonna enjoy themselves more with something that's less intimidating. So they would ride the cross trainer and I would show them around on this thing. This is the bike I would take. If I'm going to be riding somewhere where we're going to have to connect trail, so mostly you know, trail riding, but having to get on the pavement to connect bits of trail, this is the bike I'm going to take. I don't have my cross trainer plated, and I don't intend to, so I don't have a need to get it plated. So this is the bike I use in that case. And yeah, and then obviously if I'm going to commute to and from work occasionally, I only live 25 miles from work now, so I commute on it a little bit more often now than I did when I had a 100-mile round trip. Now I've got a 50-mile round trip, so I'll take this once or twice a week. Let's see, what's not stock about the bike besides the tires? What else have I done to the bike? Double take mirrors, which I have taken off. I still have the stock handlebar. It's not bent yet. I've put it down a few times and it's still fine, so no need to replace that. Hand guards are aftermarket, obviously. Didn't come with that, so that's stock. I did replace the ECU. Yeah, I after getting the bike, it was stock when I got it. The flame outs, it's a real thing. But I will say, shortly after I got it, I did go ahead and order the ECU. I didn't order the Vortex. That was not available at the time. There was a back order for that. So the options were the Athena Get, or the AIM ECU. I got the AIM ECU. Oh, it's again, it was cheaper than the Get. Maybe it doesn't have quite the same level of performance, but I'm not needing that level of performance. What I wanted to do was make the bike easier for the more technical riding, so it wouldn't have the flame out issue as often. So I ordered it. It took it a few weeks to come in, 3 weeks or something like that. In the interim time, I kept riding the bike, and I was getting used to the bike's tendencies, and was gelling with the bike, and started to think, well, maybe it was a waste of money. What definitely wasn't a waste of money, and actually the first upgrade, yes, absolutely, I ordered it within the first week, was the Seat Concepts Comfort. I got the Comfort Low because I am kind of short-legged, and I can barely tiptoe when sitting on it like this, so I wasn't going to get the Comfort XL that would make the bike even taller. So I got the Comfort Low just because, while the stock seat was fine for dirt bike and dirt bike use, the stock seat was a killer trying to commute 50 miles one way. About 20 to 30 minutes into that ride, my backside was really hurting. So within that first week of ownership, after a couple commutes, I did get the Seat Concept seat. I ordered that ECU a few weeks later. Before the ECU came in, I was starting to think that perhaps I'd wasted my money, because I got the bike working for me. I got used to it. I put a few 100 miles on it, and it seemed like it was working better for me. However, I will say this: once I got the ECU and I put it in there, any buyer's remorse or doubt was erased. Okay, so here's the thing: do you have to get an aftermarket ECU if you have a CRF450L or CRF450RL? No. Is the bike unrideable with the stock ECU? No. You can get used to it. You might be happy with it. Is the investment in money wasted money if you get an aftermarket ECU? And that depends on you. For me, it wasn't a waste of money. It was worth the extra money. Some people might say, you know, you end up spending about $1,000 to sort out the issues. It's a little bit more than $1,000, maybe 11 or 1,200 bucks with the seat and the ECU. But so a $10,000 bike becomes an $11,000 bike, but it's a $10,000 bike that I'm a lot happier with, or it's an $11,000 bike I'm a lot more happier with than if I'd have kept it stock. Also, I'll say that I'd rather have a kick-ass $11,000 bike than a $10,000 bike that I'm not 100% happy with. I'm 100% happy with this bike. Let's see, some of the things that a lot of people do that I have not done and why. A lot of people change the exhaust, say you got to change the exhaust or your bike won't run right. Yeah, I could maybe get more power out of it if I got an aftermarket exhaust, but I don't need more power. I don't want any more noise. I'm living in a campground, as you can see, and I'm sure my neighbors appreciate the relative silence of the silencer that came stock. So I'm not gonna bother replacing the exhaust. What would it do for me? Okay, it would lower the weight a little bit. That's the only thing it would do to benefit me, but a few pounds I don't think it makes that big a difference the way I'm riding it. Another thing that most owners do is ditch all this, get a tail tidy. I'm not going to ditch this in favor of a cleaner looking tail tidy, and the reason why is this thing is secure. This plate isn't going anywhere. This is freaking solid, very robust system. And so I know my plate, if the plate ever comes off, it's because that's backed off. I've lost one of those, and I lost one on the trail, but you know, a zip tie, and I haven't even bothered to replace that. So I'm happy with that the way it is. Also, I throw soft luggage over this thing. I got two different of the Tusk soft luggage sets from Rocky Mountain ATV MC, and I run the straps through back here. If I got one of those tail tidies and those were gone, I'd have to throw a rack up here up top to have something to strap it to, and well, I don't want that. I'd rather have this than have an extra rack up top. So as far as I'm concerned, getting a tail tidy here in my case is you know, that would be a vanity project, just something to make it look a little cleaner in the back. But you know, form follows function in this case. So that's pretty much it, what I've done with the bike. The only thing I'd like to fix, really, that's not really a real problem, but I wish that I had gotten maybe an RL that was from a later year model to not have white back here, because I use those throw over soft luggage bags and dirt gets in between, and this stuff, okay, that's a little bit of dust I can wipe off, but some of this discoloration, I can't scrub it out, so it looks pretty dingy back here on the white. That's why I've got these stickers. I'm gonna put more stickers here to like let them be sacrificed. But you know, maybe I'll order some red airbox covers here for, or whatever you call this, these side panels back here. Some red ones I think will, I mean, the red all looks good. It's the white back here specifically that doesn't look so great. Another upgrade that I should have already done, but I was negligent, is if you look here, the left and the right should be symmetrical, but they're not. And the reason for that is last month I was riding and in some sand, and I lost it, and I went down, and let's see if you can see this. You can see if there's a dent in the radiator right here, and the whole radiator got pushed back, got kind of twisted a bit. So I gotta get that sorted, and so that's one thing I should have had on the bike that I have not done, is put some radiator guards on the bike. That's really the only thing I need to do to this bike, is get that bent back, straighten that out, get radiator guards, either get some vinyl wrap to put over the white back here, or replace those with the red ones. I think that's all I need to do with the bike. The 2-gallon tank isn't a bad problem if you're not going to ride it for too long. And when I went to Utah, what I did was I had the soft luggage back there, and on top of the soft luggage I threw an armadillo, was it giant loop armadillo bag, 2-gallon bag, so I was able to carry an additional 2 gallons of gasoline. Oh, part of that trip, packing a week's worth of stuff and carrying it back because there was some stuff that was following us in the recovery vehicle, but when I had to make my ride back to St. George, I had to carry all my extra stuff on top of like my overnight bags and stuff. And at some point along the way, my backpack that was right on top, it wasn't strapped in well enough, kind of fell down, covered the exhaust and all this back here, and you can see, well, it burned up my bag, and it kind of melted this turn signal and this reflector. The turn signal still works, so am I gonna bother replacing it? Form follows function. Yeah, it's a little funny looking, but you know what, it still works and it tells the story. So yeah, that happened. Let's see what else. Yeah, that's about it. Okay, why did I get this bike over some of the other bikes in its class? What bikes does it compare to? Well, one would be the DRZ 400. DRZ 400, it's carbureted. I wanted fuel injection. The DRZ 400 weighs considerably more. I wanted something sub 300 pounds stock, so that took the DRZ, two things to take the DRZ out of the running. My CRF450RX had a 5-speed close ratio transmission, and I knew the DRZ 400 had the 5-speed close ratio gearbox thing. I didn't want to deal with that. I wanted that 6th gear too. So another reason DRZ 400 wasn't in the running. So then that leaves what flavor of KTM you like. I tried a KTM 500, and it was either a 2019 or a 2020, I believe. Might have been a 2021 model. It had the power, and yeah, it was lighter, but you know what, when I rode it, it had its flame out issue also stock. And the one thing it did have that this bike doesn't have was a lot of vibration. The sucker rattled like crazy, vibrated a lot. Was it good on the trail? Yeah, but it wasn't a bike I'd want to be on for a longer ride. So it wasn't not in the running for me, the KTM or the Husqvarna. The betas, I'd never tried a beta at that point. Didn't know anybody that had one to test ride, so I never tried them. And you know what though, that's fine. I mean, I've got a beta cross trainer now, and Beta's a great brand. And now since I've had this, I've rode a beta 390 race edition. Fantastic bike with a smooth motor, smooth power, almost equal to this as far as like the power goes, but it's lighter, so it's actually better. for the single track. So I think a 390 Race Edition Beta that made street legal would be pretty good too. Now, is it going to be as robust as the Honda in time with the miles I'm putting on it? No, I don't think so. And another thing, I do load this thing down, this robust subframe. None of the other performance dual sports have that. So this thing is my single, it can be used as my single track bike. It can be used as my commuter. It can be used as my light ADV bike. This thing could be a BDR Slayer. It could be just a dual sport runabout bike. It's so it's got so much different capabilities. It's got such diverse capabilities, and that's why, of all the bikes I've ever owned, I'd have to put this one at the top of my list of favorites. Not because it's the best at anything, but it's the best at doing everything that I like to do. The riding I like to do, there's not a type of riding I do that I couldn't use this bike for. And because of that, it's at the top of the list of all the bikes I've ever owned. So maybe if you're into that sort of riding, some, 25 to or less miles daily commute, going and tearing up some single track occasionally, going and doing BDR style riding, dual sport riding. If you want a dual sport that's more leaning towards the off-road side of the equation, yeah, this is it. It's going to be, at least in the experience I had, okay, in the experience I had on the bikes that I rode, it was a lot smoother than the KTM offering in the 500. I think, if it's one that you're going to load down to do overnight stuff with, I don't think you're going to find any other performance dual sports that are going to have that beefy subframe and all that. Yeah. So yeah, would I buy another CRF450L if this thing was stolen, or we had some crazy flood and this thing got washed away or something like that? Would I buy another one? Me? Absolutely. I would buy another CRF450L or CRF450RL, and the same modifications I've done to this one, I would do to another one. All right, well, that's it. If you've stayed through to listen to my ramblings, I appreciate it, and thanks for watching.